Thank you so much for coming to our Data Studio Understanding and Leveraging the New Hampshire SAS Results, grades 3 through 8. We're also going to talk a little bit about grade 11 science, but we've got some information about the science data and everything coming up. So we'll get to it right now. First and foremost, thanks so much to the NHED. As always, we appreciate them sponsoring all of these webinars so that we're allowed to bring everything to you for free of charge. You get all the recordings and everything like that also on their Canvas site. Just so you know, you are muted. We cannot hear you. Because it's a webinar format, we ask that you put your questions in the Q&A or in the chat. Marissa, my colleague, and I are going back and forth with the delivery today, so we will feed questions to each other as we go through the presentation. If at the end you still have questions, we can sometimes unmute people at the very end. So hang on if you have other questions at the end that we may not answer today in the regular part of the session. Also, tomorrow you will be getting an email about 24 hours after the finish of this webinar. You will get an email with the link to the slide deck that we have here, and also the certificate for you for your professional development. So be on the lookout for that. We have heard that some people are having a little bit of trouble getting them, so make sure to check your spam for them. I'm not sure Zoom automatically sends them, so they should be getting to you, but if not, just reach out to us. Also, there will be a brief survey at the end of this webinar. As always, we want to have your feedback, know how we might be able to make these trainings even more helpful for you and to get you as much information as possible. The team today is, I'm Heather Jenkins. I will be working here with my colleague, Marissa Hooper.
Hi, everyone.
And then Kristen Crawford is our main contact on this contract and working with us with all of these webinars. She is not able to make it this afternoon, but her information is on the slide deck. So if you ever need to reach out to her or to the New Hampshire Department of Education folks, she's their main contact. I'm just going to turn my screen off really quickly so that we can just make sure that you're able to see as much as you can on your screen. First and foremost, access to Data Studio. We just wanted to make it really clear in the beginning. We're going to go through and how you do your whole login and everything. But the way that you're going to access the particular data that we're looking at for New Hampshire SAS today is through your My NHDOE login. So if you're an educator, that's where you have your educator information system, or if you're an I4C person, that's where you're going to see it. You should have a little tile there that says Go Guardian Data Studio. It might have multiple roles there depending on who you are. But you're logging in, everything that we're talking about today is right in Data Studio. So we had a webinar last week that was for how to look at the New Hampshire SAS results on the Cambium portal, which is what most people are used to looking at it. So this is that new data warehouse for the NHED. Just to kind of give you a little bit of information about how people are gaining access. There have been some issues with specific subsets of folks getting access to Data Studio. So if you are an SAU administrator, district administrator, or school administrator, there is an automatic access through seeds, right? So this gets put in through, your state submissions and how districts are putting in information for their administrators. For teachers, you have access specifically related to your district's class submissions and the teachers that are associated with that and the students associated with those teachers. So the way that your index submissions are done is how you're getting access. The top four of these, the administrators and teachers, have automatic access to Data Studio. Again, teachers are just able to see specifically the classes that they teach and the students within those classes. These folks in the middle in this gray area are your specialists, meaning like if you are a special education person, if you are a reading specialist, if you are a math specialist, if you are any sort of coach, because you're not necessarily listed in seeds as an administrator in your schools, and you are technically not a teacher with students attached to you, you need to have your LSA add access for you for your my NHDOE. Your LSA is going to be the one to be able to do that. And what we've done on the next page here is we have put in, if you don't have access and you're sort of one of those people in between, we have the link to the list of all the LSAs in the state. So you can find your district and figure out who your LSA is if you're not sure who that is. And just know, let's say you're looking at this now and we start going through this and you just logged into my NHDOE and you don't have access. The LSA, your LSA could change it right now, but it won't take effect until tomorrow. It's a kind of an overnight or a 24 hours to take effect. So once your LSA gives you access, then you have to wait a little bit of time still before you get it. It's not, unfortunately, not instant. So hopefully you all have access. If you have any sort of trouble with gaining access, we have another slide on here that will give you access to where you can put in a help desk ticket if for some reason there's something else going on in your LSA, somehow you're a teacher or there's something wrong with the data or things like that. We've got some other places for you to be able to go to be able to make sure you gain access. So hopefully you have it. Okay. As we look through the agenda, we're looking at the New Hampshire SAS Summative reporting structure. It is very similar to what the reporting structure is in Cambium, but there's a few differences. Then we're going to look at the New Hampshire Summative scoring structure. You want to make sure that you understand how things are scored, especially when we're looking at Data Studio. It's a little bit different. And then we're going to look at the summative data in Data Studio. Then we're going to have you take a peek at the longitudinal reports in Data Studio, and then we'll wrap up and answer any other questions. So first and foremost, as we're looking at the reporting structure, we are looking here. Marissa, I'm just making sure this is my section, correct?
It's not, but if
I
you want to
didn't think it
continue,
was.
you
That's why I
can.
stopped for a second. I was like, wait, this isn't my section. I'll let her go. All right.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Marissa.
Heather, for the introduction to our New Hampshire SAS reporting structure. We did a workshop on this yesterday as well. So as we were divvying up the sections today, it's sort of overlapping with yesterday, but we're good. We're going to continue. So the New Hampshire SAS reporting structure, we have our subjects, our reporting categories, and our clusters and our standards. So for the reporting in Data Studio, the subjects that we will report for New Hampshire SAS are going to be ELA and math for grades 3 through 8, and then it's going to be science for grades 5, 8, and 11. And for the math and ELA reports, those are directly aligned to the Common Core state standards. And then if we're looking at the science assessment for grades 5, 8, and 11, those are aligned to the next generation science standards. We then are going to be looking at reporting categories within the New Hampshire SAS. And so for our reporting categories, and this is where it's going to differ a little bit in Data Studio, is for ELA in grades 3 through 8, we have reading informational text, reading literature, and writing standards. That's everything that we were able to see in the Cambium reporting portal. However, in Data Studio, we're also able to see any questions that students got related to the language standards. Not the questions themselves, but any data related to the language questions for ELA. And then in science for grades 5, 8, and 11, we have earth and space science, life science, and physical science. And then for math, the reporting categories, anything where you see an and an underline, that's two domains of math reported out together. So for grades 3 through 5, it's the same. And then in grades 6, 7, and 8, the reporting categories are different because the domains of math are different. There's also modeling and problem solving and the use of mathematical reasoning that you can see in the Cambium reporting portal. Those are not reported in Data Studio, and that is because there are questions that get pulled from multiple standards across multiple domains or reporting categories. And so we're not able to report together for that particular reporting category. So you can see it on the Cambium portal, but you will not be able to see it in Data Studio. So if we're looking at our overall subject area of math, we have math as our subject, and then our reporting categories. If we are looking at the bare bones standards, which we actually linked in this presentation today, the reporting categories here, we would see operations and algebraic thinking and number and operations in base 10. It's in that dark gray sort of header for each of the domains of math. And for ELA, they're the same. It's that reading standards for literature and reading standards for informational text. For science, this is going to be physical science, life science, and earth science. So you can see over here how they correspond to that. And then we're going to also be able to see data and report out on the cluster and standards for those reporting categories. And so if we're looking at an overall subject of math, we have operations and algebraic thinking as our reporting category. Our clusters are going to be underneath that, so we can see the writing and interpreting numerical expressions and analyzing patterns and relationships will be under operations and algebraic thinking, and then the standards are going to be listed right under the clusters. So when we're looking at the reports in Data Studio, we will be able to see down to the cluster and standard level within a particular reporting category. And for ELA, the clusters stay the same in grades 3 through 8, which can make looking at that data a little cleaner. We have the key ideas and details, craft and structure listed under the reading standards for literature reporting category here, and then the standards are listed underneath. And then for science, for clusters, we have those disciplinary core ideas, which you can view on the next generation science standards that we have linked here in the presentation as well. And for Cambium, if you were to log into that reporting portal, each cluster does have standards within that cluster or performance expectations. But the New Hampshire SAS Summative only reports to the cluster level for science. So in the Cambium portal, you can only drill down to the cluster level for data. However, in the reporting portal, it does look like this if you've been in. If you haven't been in, this is a screenshot of what that science data looks like in Data Studio. We can drill down to the performance expectation or standard level for science. So you will be able to dig into those and get more information about how students did on the particular performance expectations in science. And this is where we have that link right in the presentation. It brings you to just another way to view all your standards. And so we have that here for you if you need it. When looking at data in Data Studio or revisiting, we have that link here for you. I don't believe I saw any questions, but again, fill that Q&A or chat, and Heather and I can feed them to each other as we go through our presentation.
Thanks, Marissa. All right, so now what I wanted to do is I want to basically show you how that reporting structure and how it relates to the scoring structure and what you will see in Data Studio. It is a little bit different as we drill down, especially into the clusters and the standards. So we just want to make sure that it's crystal clear how you're going to read the data. So when it comes to scores, we're going to go right down the same way that Marissa did with helping you understand the standards. So starting with that subject, this is what we're looking at right now. I'm showing you a screenshot of a historical report, um, but you'll also be able to see some of the data within Data Studio. I'm going to show you what it looks like, but just in general, we're looking at, you've got specific years and looking at the scoring structure. I'm just going to take one of these areas here and drill in a little bit. This goes to 2023-24. You do have 2024-25 data in there, basically as of Friday and then updated on Monday. So our screenshots don't go to 2025 yet, but you definitely can see 2025 data there. As we're looking at the information here, we have like a student count. We have an average scaled score, very much like you see in Cambium. And then we have the performance distribution percents. So you're able to see these. You'll also be able to see these colors right here within the Data Studio application. You'll see these particular score bands. As we're reading across here for the historical report, this here is level 1, which is below proficient. This is level 2 approaching. This is proficient and highly proficient. So you're able to see the specific percentage of students that you might have that are meeting those proficiencies, again, left to right. And then you have the counts for that. The percent proficient is the adding up of level 3 and level 4. It does not add up in this particular screenshot exactly correctly, but what happens is there's decimal points here that they're rounding down or up to. And then so this is when you add the decimal points in, it's going to get up to 55%. So that's your percent proficient. When we're talking about our subject scores, the way that students get into a specific band, whether it be level 1, 2, 3, or 4, is for each grade level, there are what we call cut scores. So this is their scaled score. Wherever it falls into, depending on their grade level, is the overall level of achievement for that particular student within a specific subject. So these are all your cut scores so that you can kind of understand. I find scaled scores to be kind of arbitrary for me. I don't have memorized what the cut scores are. So it's always nice to be able to go back and take a peek at this. As we're talking about reporting categories, just like on the Cambium portal, we're looking at 4 years of data. We can see here for a specific reporting category for expressions and equations. This is just a 6th grade math reporting category. We're able to see the whole performance distribution for these particular students. So as we are looking at this, we're taking a peek and we're seeing that we have this low, at or approaching, or on or above, again, going left to right. The low is obviously your students who are not really close to meeting expectations for this particular reporting category. At or approaching are those students that are basically anywhere just above low or just below where they're meeting those expectations. So there's kind of a range in there. I kind of take the word at or off of here, and we're just saying these students are approaching. They're not quite there yet, but they're getting there. This on or above, or this third section here, are the percentage of students that are meeting expectations for a specific reporting category. So we do want our students to be here. As we move down to clusters, the way that we're going to view clusters, again, this is the historical report. I'm going to show you how to view it with all the different types of reporting within Data Studio. But if we're looking here on this particular report, we can see each of the clusters for expressions and equations. And then we have this coloring that we have that's this purple variation of purple. And what these are is these are percent of points correct. These are not proficiencies. As we get down into the cluster and the standard level, we are no longer looking at specific proficiency. We're looking at percentage of points scored. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that as we go through and I show you the reporting portal as well. We have blueprints just so that you can see the total number of points possible on each portion of the assessment. So we have the blueprints for ELA here and the link to them. And then we have the same thing for math. What we've done here is for each grade level of math, we've told you the total number of points, and then we've also linked it to what Achieve the Core looks at as something that is a major supporting or additional set of standards or clusters for you to be looking at for math. Just nice to know what the total number of possible points might be for each particular section. When it comes also then to the clusters, this is the color variation that I was talking about here. We do not use, if you're used to how Performance Plus used to be, we used to use those same colors, the red, the yellow, the green, and the blue, to show these percentage of points correct. And in Data Studio, with working with the department, what we wanted to make sure is that there was no confusion of whether this is proficiency levels. So the purple variation was what was decided for that. And so any sort of cluster that we're looking at here that's got students scoring 0 to 25% over all of those points is going to be this light purple. Then we have here the medium is 26 to 50% of the points possible that the students are scoring, 51 to 75, and 76 to 100. So there is some color variation as we're looking at the clusters. But again, it turns to purple so that we're not thinking that these two here, the top two, are meaning proficiency. Because somebody who scores, or if your students are overall scoring 52% of the points possible on a particular cluster, I would not necessarily call that proficient. So we just wanted to be really careful of that, and the department wanted to make sure that it's understood that we're talking about percentage of points possible on the assessment and where students and your particular schools are falling within each of those clusters. As we're looking here, again, just making sure it does not equal proficiency. As we go down here too, we can see as we're looking at cluster scores, it will say the average percent of points correct. So for all your students, they scored an average of 40% of the points, with approximately 5 points being available for this particular cluster of standards. as we move down to standards, these standards do not appear on the longitudinal report, but I am going to show you when we're looking at the domain analysis and those standards, I'm going to show you where the standards appear and how you can take a look at that as we move through that section. I saw a whole bunch of questions popping up, Marissa, so I don't know if there's some that I need to answer before we move on.
And nope, we're good to go. They've been answered in the chat. And then, of course, if you have one about Data Studio, we can answer it live as well. But everything's been covered in the chat so far.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to show you where within Data Studio you can actually see the information, not necessarily just on that longitudinal report, but as you log in, what you might be seeing as you log in and how you're going to be able to pull this New Hampshire SAS data. So first things first, heads up on some of the data in here. This is a brand new platform that the department is really trying to do their best to be able to work and get all the information in there correctly and accurately. So there's a few things that we just want to give you a heads up on that we know that the department is working on right now. First and foremost, if you're looking for science data, you can see the overall reporting category for life science, physical science, and earth science. You can see those three levels of proficiency, I guess, for those. But at this point, they're missing any cluster or standard information specifically for 24-25. There was an issue with a data file that the department was trying to get. There's no sort of fault of, and we're not going to fault anybody, but there was some issues that they're trying to work through with the data file, and that information will be in there as soon as the department is able to get it, and the folks from Data Studio are able to work with the information and make sure that it's accurate in there properly. The ELA data, the writing data is a work in progress. We're trying really hard to be able to make the writing data useful for you and down to the sort of evidence and elaboration, organization and purpose, and conventions levels. There was definitely some work that is being done on getting that data to show properly. The percentages are not showing up properly, so we just want to give you a heads up that writing data right now is a work in progress, and that's for all years. We added writing data just a little while ago, and we're working through to make sure able to map it exactly what we want to see on our end. Will say that everybody that we've worked with Data Studio and GoGuardian have been amazing trying to do their best to get the data in here properly. I know the department is working really hard to get data in here properly, so we're just gonna sifted through and worked out. The other thing that I just want to make sure that is understood, and that Marissa and I, through the different trainings that we've done over the last couple of weeks or so, missions and your students and everything is what the department is able to show you in Data Studio. It is reliant on that. Specifically, I'm going to move down from there. In some cases, necessarily have submissions in. Your students have taken the assessment. The data that gets populated is through going in and saying, oh, we have and all of that. A lot of teachers in there that are maybe no longer working at the school or what have you. So all of that is we're trying to get help folks get to see everything that like there's some data that is just somehow missing. We think it has to do with submissions and all of that. The data is not necessarily missing from the Cambium data file, but it's how it gets into Data Studio that there's a little bit of a glitch. On this, there is a link here to the NHED help desk. And if you're finding that you have any information that's missing there, you can click right on this link. Marissa, I might have you, if you can, in the next couple of minutes, take that link and put it into the chat just in case people want it before tomorrow because they're going in and they're seeing that they can't necessarily find the data or they're not seeing what they need to see. That's where you're going to be able to put in a help desk ticket.
Definitely, I'll add that in right now.
Thank you. All right. Again, as you're logging in, you're going to go right into My NHDOE. You are going to log in and go through whatever you need to go through for being able to um, update your password and all of that. If you are somebody who hasn't logged in a while, a lot of us, especially as educators, we log in every 3 years and we do our updated certification. So just know you might need to change your password there. You will see once you log in and get all of that squared away, you will see this Go Guardian Data Studio. If you are an administrator, somebody who's at an SAU district or school level that you might have multiple schools, you might see this multiple roles available, and then you might be looking at, right here, I have 6 tiles that somebody would have. What you want to look at, a lot of the information up at the top here is the same. I've whited out because this is somebody's specific login information. Um, Basically, what will happen is if you're looking here, the last thing you see, like if I were to click on this one, this is this person's SAU office access. If they wanted to see the middle school or just like an elementary school or whatever else they have for schools, or if you have multiple districts that you're available, you'll have all of that information here. So you'll just want to be able to go into the one that makes the most sense for what you're trying to view for data. If you are somebody who is an SAU or district admin role, this is what you will see as you log in to Data Studio. It might make you check off something to say, you're entering Data Studio. Check that you're like, yep, I'm good. I agree to whatever privacy policies or whatever it is in there. You only do that one time, but this is what you should see. If for some reason you see something like you need to sign up for Data Studio, please create an account. You are not going in the right place. There's something wrong with your particular login. You should get something specifically that has like some sort of tabs or dashboard here that you're able to see. So again, SAU or district admin roles will see something like this. If you're a school admin, you will have the same sort of information, but you'll also have this dashboard tile here. And then if you're a teacher role, you see this right away. You're right to your dashboard. Your dashboard also might be completely blank. There might not be anything on the dashboard. For teachers, you would be able to go through some of these same filters to be able to see. Basically, what this is trying to show you is specific data for your current year students. So, if you're looking for New Hampshire SAS data, it's your dashboard's going to be blank for the majority of the year, and then it will not be blank if you want to choose to look at your New Hampshire SAS data after the window. So it's an interesting for state assessment data, the dashboard isn't necessarily the best place to see information. Now, this one right here is showing like iReady data. So if you're somebody who's, school or district is uploading NEWA or iReady or whatever, you can have that show up on your dashboard. But like I said, state assessment data is mostly done at the end of the year. So the dashboard report isn't quite as helpful for the state assessment data. If you are an administrator and you have more than one role, you can toggle and switch accounts. All you do is click up on this, up arrow here, and it will allow you to do any of these things. You could sign out, go to My NH to go back to your sign in, or you can switch accounts here. Part of the issue with this is that when the different roles were set up for Data Studio, it was not necessarily completely understood that for us in the state of New Hampshire, somebody at an SAU or district level wants to be able to see, like down to the student level. They want to be able to see everything there is for the schools within their district, be able to look at teachers and everything. And so that wasn't necessarily set up properly in Data Studio. There will be some updates that will be coming on so that when you do log in as an SAU or district admin, you're going to have more tabs up at the top here, and you'll have, the same sort of information as you would as a school administrative role. And they're definitely working on that. And so there's a little bit of a workaround right now where you're able to toggle in between here. But you will be able to see the majority of the information that we're showing you today. As we are looking in, if we were on this page, go right up to this one. If we were on this page and you're a school admin role and you were to click on this dashboard, it will bring you specifically to this page here where it says dashboard up at the top here. That's the tab that you're going to be able to see. This dashboard report, again, is that snapshot overall of student performance. It's kind of, I feel like, a little bit more designed for teachers. And so I don't want to talk too much about the dashboard report because even though it is kind of for teachers, the best way to see the New Hampshire SAS data is not necessarily on this dashboard. So what I want to do is I'm going to move from this dashboard and I'm going to click on this trends tab. So once you're in the trends tab, we're going to be able to see overall performance on one or more assessment. Anything that has to do with any state assessment, you can view the data on. Working on SAT, I know the file was sent over yesterday. Marissa and I have been working with the department on getting that mapped properly so that the SAT data is coming over a little bit better as well. But all the New Hampshire SAS data, with the exception of what I already covered that is missing for right now, should be in here. The filters here define what is shown on the trends report. A lot of times when you click on trends, it's going to automatically run a report and you're going to see all of these sort of bar charts on there. So what I want to do is I want to go and I want to look at these filters and explain to you what the filters mean. They are finicky. You basically, as we look at this information here, less is best when it comes to filters. It becomes a little bit of a nightmare to put in too many filters as you go along. So you want to make sure that maybe you're setting up some filters and then maybe you're running the report, seeing what you're seeing, and then you can narrow it down even further from there. If anybody used to use Performance Plus, it's very much like that, where it's not necessarily showing you something and you need to figure out why. Also, we have asked for a filter reset because what happens is you put filters in and then it's really hard to get rid of them because there's no filter reset yet. There is a way to kind of reset it that's a kind of a roundabout way. So if I go back up here, and if you click on this here and you click on Data Studio again, and it brings you back to this page, and then you go back into the Data Studio, reports here and the dashboard and all of that, you can go to trends and it will have reset. It sounds ridiculous, and I just showed you 5 different slides to be able to get to there, but you literally click on Data Studio so you get back to that first page again, and then you get back in and it will reset your filters for you. You will thank me for that because we did it, I don't know how many times yesterday with the group that we had. So, um, explaining the filters and just making sure that we're going through that. There are so many filters. So there's when we're selecting a student set, selecting tests, we can performance isn't quite as necessary for the New Hampshire SAS, and then we can also look at demographic data. As we go through here, I'm going to go through each particular one of those top areas there, sort of your little sections. So right now I'm on the select student set. Now, this here is you are looking at which students you want to see the performance of. So if you're looking for students that you have this year, you want to make sure to see the 24-25 school year. Those are your students that you have this year. It is a single select field. You cannot say, I want to see my student set from this year and last year. You can see how students scored last year, but you're still looking at students that are yours this year. So it's a single select field. If we look at school, depending on your access, you might have access to more than one school. So this is a multi-select field. You can pick all the schools that you'd like to include in that data view. You just click on one and then you use a drop down, you click on another, and it will show all of those schools that you want to see data for. If you want to see all the schools in your district, you just leave it blank and it will show you all the schools. When it comes to the information that's left on here, this is where it gets a little bit tricky with adding in too many filters. So teachers, a lot of you might look at that teacher list and say, these teachers aren't even here anymore. Or, okay, I see that there's specific teachers in here. I might choose a teacher. And we just, again, it's a little bit tricky with using these, but you can definitely run the data off of a specific teacher. This class grade, right now, not to confuse you, but the class grade isn't exactly what you would think it is. Let's say I am a fifth grade student. And I have a fifth grade teacher, and they're my teacher, but I also go to PE and art and music. And what's happening right now is my class grade, even though I'm in fifth grade, I am associated with, because my school is kindergarten through fifth grade, I'm associated with kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, and fifth grade, because I'm associated with a teacher who teaches multiple grade levels. So we're trying to get that fixed, and we're trying to get the class grade be my grade level that I am currently in right now. So for right now, I wouldn't use the class grade, but going forward, you'll be able to use that at another time. The class subject, course, class, like, and group. it just right now, it just narrows it down too much. So I would be really careful about using any of these. I just wanted to give you we put the information here on what each of these particular drop downs includes. And then again, you can filter off of these fields, but be careful because it narrows your search. Most of the time when I'm running anything, I will just choose the school year, and I might choose a school if there's more than one school that I want to take a peek at. As we're moving on, other filters that you can take a peek at are the select tests. As soon as I click that, this is what you're going to be seeing. You are going to be able to see right here, you have test year and test type. Those are the only required fields here for you to put in for this. Because I chose my student set as 24-25, the test year is also defaulting to 24-25. This particular field here, again, you can select multiple years. So this is a multi-select field. You can pick all the years you would like to include for test years in here, and it will include any of those. So if I wanted to see last year and this year, I could choose both years. For the test type, one thing in Data Studio that happens is it defaults to every single test type. So you need to X out of any of the test types that you don't want. And so you would just narrow that down to New Hampshire SAS. It is multi-select, so you could look at New Hampshire SAS compared to Access. Maybe you deal with ESOL students and you want to see how they're doing on the New Hampshire SAS compared to their Access. They're not totally comparable, but you could look at both particular assessments. Also, if you're a district that uploads any other data like NEWA or iReady or STAR, you would be able to look at New Hampshire SAS compared to those as well. So today we're just focusing on New Hampshire SAS, but it is multi-select. Test grade is something that this would allow you to say, I just want to see my 5th grade tests, right? So if you choose test grade and you say you want to choose, grade 5 or whatever it might be, it will show you grade 5 for all of the test years that you have selected over here. It means that what's happening is I am not necessarily seeing cohort data. I am looking at grade 5 data over multiple years, so they're not the same subset of students. So again, this is multi-select. You can pick all the grade levels where you would like to be able to see data for. If you wanted to choose a subject, you could choose the test subject, so math, ELA, and science. This was a demo database that we were using, so social studies, computer science, and other subjects were showing up as well. But this, again, is if you want to see math, ELA, and science, just let it go, and it will show you all of them. Or if you just wanted to see math, you could just choose math. The tags field, we don't have any tags for New Hampshire SAS, but the tests, if I don't choose a test grade, I'm going to see every single test that's available on my data set for 24-25. So if you just wanted to see grade math ELA, you could click on that. It is multi-select. If you choose the test grade, it will narrow the tests down to that particular test grade. So again, this is multi-select. I highly recommend you not putting in all your test years, your test type, your test grade, your subject, and then the tests here. It's just it just gets too narrowed down, and one little mistake makes you not see any data at all. So that's the select tests. Performance. This performance band, we do not differentiate performance bands for New Hampshire SAS. One example that I know that does differentiate performance bands is if you upload your STAR data, you have your district standard performance bands, and then you have also the national performance bands. So Those are ones that you can differentiate between the two, but New Hampshire SAS does not have that. The last one is demographics. As we're looking at this free and reduced lunch, you won't see it was in there for a little bit. We asked them please to get it out. It was never filtering off of anything because we don't have any sort of public data that comes with free and reduced lunch status. So you shouldn't see that at all. We found yesterday that nobody was seeing that, but it was in the demo database. So I just wanted to cross that off here. So any of these particular demographics you are able to include in your data view. So if you ran the assessment and you said, oh, okay, I want to see specifically students that have an IEP, you could choose IEP and then you could run the particular report again. So this demographic data is something that you can also filter off of. So with my filters, I'm going back to this select tests. I have my student set is 2024-25. This is my test year. I'm looking at New Hampshire SAS and I'm looking at grade 7. So I have my general information in there and I'm going to hit apply. And then this is what I'm going to see. So this is the performance trend report within Data Studio. So you're able to see, you can see your colors here and all of that for ELA and math. That's what I see for grade 7. This is specifically, this is demo data, but this is what you would see for your data if you chose grade 7 as well. Just some general information about this is we can always see our filters up at the top. This survey band was just showing up in my demo database. You wouldn't necessarily see that there, but you can see what your filters are at all times. And then if what I'm doing here is I'm going down and I'm kind of, showing you a little bit closer in this view here. So for any of these areas, one thing with Data Studio that's really cool is that if I hover over this, I hovered over the 21%. And so what I could see here is I'm able to see the date of my assessment. We know that New Hampshire SAS is on October 19th. We did put in a date. It's going to be a single date that you'll see for your data. It's not the date that your students took the assessment. They had done that originally, and then what happened is if you had some students take it in one time and another set of students in 7th grade took it on a different date, it was showing all of the dates. And so we recommended that I believe the date might even be like June 1st or June 30th that you'll see. Um, so that it all showed up in one place and that you didn't necessarily have all these different views of the different dates that the students took the assessment. It was a little bit of a nightmare. So you'll see, I believe, June 30th there. You'll see the total number of students. This here is an average score. This is not your total number of students. We get that question a lot. It's the average score for the students that you're looking at. So you can see the score here, 645 and up here. The school year you're seeing, and then you can see the Lexile score here for ELA for this particular level. And then you can see that highly proficient, proficient, approaching, and below. So these two combined together are your overall proficiency for ELA for this. So it's great. You can hover over any of these and it will give you that same information. On the bottom here, I've kind of scrolled down a little bit. Again, we're looking at a demo district here. I'm also able to see all of the schools that I have access to. If you're a teacher, this is going to be all of your rosters that you're seeing here. And then you can see their overall, how they're scoring on the ELA and the math assessment down here, what their overall average proficiency is and the average scaled score for those students. If I were to click on a particular school, what's going to happen is it will refresh this whole screen and it will show you the bars up at the top just for this particular school. And I'm able to view that information. Anytime we have this sort of green lettering, it's, and it has a hyperlink to it, you can click right in there and you're able to see that information. You can also, on the right-hand side, you can compare. Right now, I'm comparing by school, but I could look here and I could compare by specific students, the teacher in class, take a peek at that. Most people were saying that even though when they were choosing teacher, um, in the drop down in the filters and it was showing a whole bunch of old teachers, that it was just their current teachers that were showing up here. So if you wanted to look specifically by teacher, you could. If you are a teacher, you might be able to look specifically, instead of looking at your sections, then you might want to look specifically at your students and you would be able to see the student information there. So back up to the top here, I'm at my trends. I see ELA and I see math. If I want to drill down further than for our overall score, our subject scores, and I want to move down, now I'm trying to look at reporting category here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this domain analysis, and it's going to give me that domain analysis report. So once I click on this, what happens is it keeps all of the criteria that I had for my trends report. So I still have my same filters here. What it does though is it automatically defaults to ELA. I'm a math person, but it defaults to ELA every time. So just keep that in mind. It's not like the math disappeared, but because it's a domain analysis, it wants to go subject by subject. So you could click on that and you would be able to choose, sorry, in the drop down, it would say New Hampshire SAS ELA, New Hampshire SAS Math, and New Hampshire SAS Science. So if you wanted to look at a different subject, you could. That's where you're going to be able to filter by that. But I'm going to stay right here and I'm going to look at this right now. I have reading standards for literature and reading standards for informational text. If I hover over this again, I'm looking at this particular band. My band is that low. And then you can see here that we've got the yellow is at or approaching, the green is on or above. We made the colors a little bit different than the brighter colors for the overall because we get a lot of questions about reporting category and why people are not seeing blue. It's because for reporting category, we just have these three levels here that are the low, at or approaching, or on or above. So we wanted to make those colors just a little bit different so people weren't thinking like, where'd all my level 4 people go? Reporting categories don't have enough questions to really differentiate between proficient and highly proficient. So that's why it changed to these particular indicators. This is the same as what's on the Cambium portal, these same sort of low, at, or approaching, and on or above. This here also tells us that we have 19% of our students are at the low level for reading literature, which is in this particular scenario, 109 students out of 574. So again, the hovers are really helpful within the Data Studio application. As we scroll down to the bottom here, now I'm showing you, I see my information by school. Again, I'm able to change and look at the information here by however I would like to compare it. Maybe I wanted to see my students or what have you here. Also, right now it's on average scaled score. You can change this to mastery level. And so what this will help you with is overall, this particular middle school here is when I hover over it, it's the AA at or approaching, or you would see OA on or above, or you would see the below as well. So this just helps you kind of understand where those particular students are falling, rather than just having it by a specific number here. So you're able to see it by mastery level. Moving back up to the top, as I'm looking at this and I'm looking at this reporting category here, if I click on the RL, again, those green, you're able to kind of drill right in. I could start and I could drill down into my reading literature, and then I could move down to the cluster level with that. I kind of like to see reading literature and reading informational text and the other, sort of categories. I like to choose to look at it by this drop down because I can choose cluster here. And now what's going to happen is I'm going from my reporting category or my domain analysis, and now I'm going to be able to see all the clusters for ELA in grade 7. Again, if I just wanted to see the reading literature clusters, I could click on that, but I choose cluster here, and now this is what happens. We've got our purple. Because we're looking at the cluster level, we no longer are able to look at anything as below, at, or approaching, or on or above. This is where we start getting into those percentage of points correct on compared to like what the overall number of points available is for a particular cluster. So the way we read this, as we move down to cluster level, we now have our language. We also have our speaking and listening. We did find that there's very few questions that are speaking and listening on the assessment. So just take a peek, because what I'm going to show you here will tell you sort of about the number of points that are even possible. So we use the purple variation because we didn't want people to get confused with proficiency levels. Because there's 4 buckets here, the 0 to 25, 26 to 50, 51 to 75, and 76 to 100. We really got people confused if we were going to use that red, yellow, green, and blue. They were thinking proficiency. So we've got purple. As we're looking at these particular percents, the variations, again, this is not equal proficiency. The variations you can see on those particular bar charts. It's also giving us, again, we're looking at cluster level data. So as we're looking at reading literature, all of these are my clusters within reading literature, reading informational texts. So that's why in the beginning of this, we were showing you those standards documents because you can cross-reference. But the cool thing is also you are able to hover over any of that, and it will give you the information that is available for that cluster information. If I'm looking here, I'm looking at this particular information here is at 17% reading literature, and I'm looking at the cluster B, which is craft and structure. If I were to hover over this, I would have seen craft and structure there. I can see that 17% of my students are scoring 0 to 25% of the points. So that's 100 students out of 574. If I'm scrolling down to the bottom of this, I can also look at the specific schools and how they're doing overall. This information here is basically showing it by, I'm looking at school. Again, I can choose any of these to be able to view it by. And then score, we can see, and mastery level, you can see here. So we can look at percentages instead of scores. And what happens when you hover over it is it says for 7C, this particular school here, it looks like this is a kind of the overall here is that 0.66% of 1 point is available for this particular school. As we're looking up here, we're able to also see the total number of points that are available for each one of these and how they're falling into those particular points that are available. If I wanted to just narrow this down now, so I'm seeing all of the particular clusters within the ELA assessment. If I wanted to break it down and just see reading literature, I could say I just want to see the domain of reading literature and apply. And now I'm just seeing reading literature in those three clusters within reading literature. If I am looking at any of these, again, I can hover over it. We've got craft and structure here. We've got I believe C is integration of knowledge and ideas. And that means that this one, I can't remember, is the other one there. Maybe it's key ideas and details. I think that's what
Yeah.
it is. Key ideas and details, craft and structure, and integration of knowledge and ideas. I did it, Marissa. I know you were unmuting to tell me. I appreciate it. So you're able to hover over those and see again specific information that is for those particular clusters. You've got the bottom information down at the bottom here. Also, if we wanted to now say, okay, great, I'm looking at this and I'm saying that I've got some, like information here about where students are within these particular areas. And I've got, quite a few students that are in the 0 to 25 and the 26 to 50% for my key ideas and details. Maybe I want to see the standards within that and say, how am I doing specifically on the standards in this area? I could either click on this 7A or I can go up to here and just view the standards within these clusters. And now I'm able to see all the standards. Again, we're looking at percent correct again. And I'm able to see for reading literature, this is my key ideas and details. I can see my standards that are within key ideas and details. I can see my standards that were within craft and structure, and then my standards that are within integration of knowledge and ideas here. And I can then see how students are scoring on those particular standards as well. If you're not sure what the standard is, you hover over it and it will tell you exactly what that standard is, which is super helpful. I can again I'm looking at this particular standard, again, analyze how a dramas or poems form or structure contributes to its meaning. I am seeing that students are scoring out of all the points, there's 0 to 25% of those possible points. So 202 students out of 481 are in that bottom percentage band there. So I'm able to hover over any of those and see the number of students. I can also then go down to the bottom. I'm able to see any of that information again on the bottom here, and I'm able to look, if I want to, by student. And then I'm able to see for any particular student, this particular student here, Rodney, scored 1 out of 3 possible points on this particular standard here. So you can see how those students are doing and what the possible points are and how that sort of factors into what you're seeing at the top of your screen. It's a lot of information. We'll see if there's any questions there. We're recording this, thank goodness, right? So you're able to view this recording as well. So I'm going to, unless Marissa, there's any questions, I'm just going to have you go over that longitudinal report quickly again, and we'll see what we've got at the end.
Awesome. So we are going to go into the longitudinal, longitudinal data report in Data Studio. This is something that if you had been to any of our workshops in the past, we held a Leveraging New Hampshire SAS Data workshop. We would run a ton of spreadsheets to get some more information and look at the data historically. And so the Data Studio has been able to incorporate that in the platform. So that's something that you can get information on without having to run all of those spreadsheets, which is great. So a little background of just why we use longitudinal data and why this report was important for Data Studio and the state to want to send that information to schools is that you're able to look at your curriculum and teaching effectiveness. So you're not drilling down into student level data, but you're really looking at the grade level as a whole. And so you can see, over the past, you can choose the amount of years, but over the past 4 years, how are we doing? What are continuous gaps that students are having, regardless of the group of students in front of us? Where are our strengths, and so forth? So again, we're not looking at that student level data. We are looking at whole grade level data. And we're not following a cohort of students either. We're following, like fifth grade math the past 4 years. We are able to see trends for both areas of strength and areas of weakness over those multiple years that the report will give us. And that will help us when looking at this kind of data, the New Hampshire SAS results, figuring out where kids are struggling with that transfer. And so if we can find a cluster of standards that we can work on and refine, and we focus on that small group of standards, we make instructional changes, we figure out what's not working and make some, make changes that will help students, it's going to make a large impact. And then over the years, we can start to make some growth and gains in the areas where students are really struggling. So for this report, you're going to open up the My NHGOE and log in, just like Heather had gone through by getting into Data Studio. And you'll get in the same. And this is where, and this might be different depending on the access that you have, right? The teacher, the district, SAU, school admin. But you're going to choose the custom reports that is here. And you're going to choose the longitudinal domain analysis. And that's going to give you or bring you here. You may have seen the screenshot earlier in the presentation. This is what that longitudinal report looks like, and it's called the cluster performance over time. And within this report, you can filter, again, depending on the access that you have, you can filter by the grade, you can filter by the subject, school year, district, maybe not, depending again on that access. And again, the school, possibly. So that's how you can, with the grade level, if you want to choose between grade levels or switch between subjects. And then the school year will help allow you to choose however many years you want to put in this longitudinal report. You may see that right where this subject is right here, the ELA grade 6, and we're given the dates across the screen. A lot of users at first usually see like just dashes there, and that's because it's just too small. So if you can't make your screen any larger, what you'd have to do is go into that school year drop down and unclick all the school years and get rid of either 2020, 2021, or even someone had to get 2 years out of there yesterday. So that would be why you're not seeing that information. So these are all the ways we can filter this report. So right here, we're given that overall subject and grade. So we're right now looking at an ELA grade 6 longitudinal report. So if that's my school, that's sixth grade over the past 5 years. This report is giving us that fifth grade data. We have the years up here, so you can see the columns associated with the particular years. And that's where Heather had showed that student count. A little closer, a better screenshot where you can see the amount of students. This is actually a screenshot from the state level data. So the student count you can see is very high. It gives you that average scaled score, the performance distribution percents from level 1 to level 4, the performance distribution counts from level 1 to level 4, and then that overall percent proficiency. To the left here, if you saw that red box pop up, that's the domain description. So the domain or the reporting category, again, we know the language standards does show up in Data Studio, so that is our domain. We then have the cluster identifier. So this is sixth grade under language standards cluster A. This is where it's helpful to get into it for the standards, but it does also give you the cluster description, which is the conventions of standard English. So we're given that information here, and then we can look to the right, and we're given for the next 5 years how students have done in that particular cluster. So for 6.A in 2020, 2021, the average amount of points available was 5, and the average amount of points scored was 63% of those possible points. So we can see that over the next 5 years that, students declined a little bit, going from 2021 to 2022, from 2022 to 2023, increased by a percentage and then dropped again. So we can start to look at over the course of 5 years how students have particularly done in a cluster. Now, this is also where we can start digging into the other reports that Heather had showed us. Like this is giving us good information to find those trends of strength and weaknesses, but it's also going to help us dig deeper by going into the other reports and seeing the particular standards that students have maybe struggled with. So this is just an example that reading standards for informational text for key ideas and details, we can see how students have done over the past 5 years. We can see it's sticking into the upper 40%. But this is where, so that average percent of points, oh, I'm so sorry, Heather. Do you mind going back for a second? Oh, no, you're good. You can go from here. That average amount of points available. If you look at any of the resources we've given for the New Hampshire SAS, there is the possible points. And so this is where you can get that here. So students can get anywhere from 5 to 8 possible points, and the averaged amount is listed on this report. We can also download these reports. So if you want to do any sort of data dive, sharing with staff, anything like that, you can download them as a PDF. And you'll be able to download, print, and do anything you want with these reports, just like the spreadsheets we had created in the past. And it will look a little something like this, where all of the domains and clusters are listed on the page and how students have done over the course of however many years you choose to run this report for. This report also gives you the performance distributions for the cluster. Heather was talking earlier, we can see in the gray here that below, at or approaching, on or above. So those performance distributions are listed for each of the domains. For each of the clusters.
Just a heads up too, we know it's small. We are gonna see what we can do about getting it to be a little larger. Even when we printed it out, it was a little small. So we do have feedback from that, but keep feedback coming if you have it. This is where we also found out, we know that the writing scores are not showing up properly, and how we knew that science clusters and standards are not showing up quite yet.
And this is just, we wanted to include that when looking at longitudinal reports, just some questions to consider about, the way you're looking at this data differently than student level data. So thinking about where the clusters are showing up in curriculum and where they might be taught. How has this particular cluster been taught in the past? Whether if it's a cluster where students have shown strength, if it's a cluster where they've shown weakness, how has it particularly been taught and what might need to change? Or what might we need to use if something's working really well? Thinking about instructional strategies. Is there cluster stands where students have historically had difficulty or they've historically been a strength for students? So just some things to think about when looking at this kind of report. I think I see
Oops.
one question. Oh, is Heather, are you addressing
I'm
this?
using multiple screens and I am so sorry. I am trying to answer Allie's question at the same time as trying to do this. So I will answer Allie's question out loud. She was asking, is there going to be an option for us to be able to for Data Studio to add the standards to this report like you've seen in the past? We are going to do what we can to be able to have the standards added to it. One of the things that we were also noticing when the standards were available was that people were trying to create goals off of a single standard, which is not necessarily best practice. So we at least wanted to get the clusters in there. And then you can then, yesterday during one of our trainings, we said, okay, this is the cluster that people, like across the board are having trouble with and students are not transferring skills to. And then we went into the standards report and looked at the standards to kind of get a little bit of a better idea of how students were doing with each one of the standards, but we'll see what we can do about getting it on there. And then I think somebody had said that they didn't have access to this particular report. Um, and so if you don't have access to the report, let us know. Again, somehow I'm not sure where that comment went. And because I'm doing the presenting and trying to do the questions, I might have lost your information there and responded specifically to Marissa on the custom report thing. So let us know if you don't have that.
Yes, I did see that question pop up, but when I go into the chat, I no longer see it.
I have
Um,
I
I
have a
bet-
feeling something happened when I was when I was trying to navigate, and that's why I was going a little bit crazy with the slides. Sorry.
No, you're good. It seems like oh, found it so deleted. Amazing. It looks like that on some screens. It might be just named differently, the cluster level year over year. Um, in clicking on that and that worked. So thank you. It is difficult sometimes when with all the different roles, we don't always see everything the same way.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing another way to find it.
Right. Andrea, thank you for letting us know that you deleted the comment and that I didn't do something on there. Appreciate it. I'm glad you found it. All right. I'm going to keep going here. And we'll have Marissa wrap up. If you have any other questions, we'll stay on for a couple minutes, but we'll wrap up here. Um,
Yeah, this is where if you wanted to see anything specifically or you had a question, this is now the time to do it. You can either type it, if it's easier to ask out loud, we can wait till the end. Um, so we'll give you a minute to write that in, but for now we'll just keep going. And we, of course, if you've been in any of our webinars, a survey is going to pop up. Please give us any feedback that you have, maybe any questions as well that maybe you didn't get to ask or address here. With Data Studio, we know how new it is. And, if you're missing anything, there are links throughout the presentation, as we said, that can hopefully put you in the right place. But if you don't know who to talk to about an issue that you're having, our information is here, and so you can contact any of us, and we'll be able to put you in the right direction or put you in the right area of trying to find, excuse me, that particular answer to the question that you have. And we thank you so much for being here, learning a little more about Data Studio. We're going to continue the support next year as well, to make sure that everyone is able to leverage not only their New Hampshire SAS results, but Data Studio in general. And we hope you have a wonderful rest of your year. You're almost there, so good luck to you all.